first of all explain the format a little bit. So what we have here is Magnus Carlsen, arguably the best chess player ever, is going to play an audience of 15 players all at the same time. In some of these exhibitions, there is no clock, and so then Magnus would play one move and kind of circle around, go board by board, until he's done a full round and then start over on the other side. In this particular event, we've added the element of a chess clock, which makes it more challenging for the audience, but also more challenging for Magnus. So both players, well, Magnus and all of his opponents, will have 30 minutes to play the entire game. You'll notice, if you're not familiar with chess, when someone makes a move, they will punch this clock, which stops the chronometer on their side and starts the clock on the other side. So every person here has 30 minutes to play all of their moves. Magnus also has 30 minutes to play all of his moves, but against all of the 15 people. So this will be interesting. One thing you'll notice pretty quickly is that Magnus is probably going to play very fast. If you're in the audience, don't let that bother you. You know, it's really not an offense to anyone. He's got to move quickly because he only has 30 minutes, and his clock is going to be running whenever you make a move. So a couple of pieces of advice. First of all, when you make a move, don't forget to hit your clock. Your clock might be your best chance to win. So another small bit of advice, and don't tell Magnus that I told you this because he wouldn't be very happy, but it might be to your benefit to make the move when Magnus is not physically right next to your board, because he's going to have to walk all the way back. So again, don't tell him I said that, but if you use it, I won't say anything. I guess at this point, unless there are any questions, and I'm happy. This is, I think, going to be somewhat informal. I'm going to try to talk as much as possible so that Magnus can't focus, and hopefully, we get a couple of scalps. I mean, we have people from all over the world, of all ages. I've been on both sides, sort of as a commentator, as a player, and as a, I've given exhibitions like this before. And generally, the youngest opponents are the ones to fear. So that would be my advice to Magnus. Be careful if you see someone who's a little bit smaller. Don't let that make you overconfident. So without further ado, I'm gonna say everyone's name, who's going to be playing against Magnus, and then I will introduce Magnus, and we can start. So here we have Kevin Chand from Fiji, I believe. Eli Mandarano from the United States, Bonian Golmo Hamadi, I apologize for my pronunciation, from Sweden, Rohayum Saad, the flags are Malaysia, from Malaysia, Vladimir Skorikov from Russia, April Vivar Almaria from the Philippines, Jed Sloan from the United States, Mahmoud Saikal from Afghanistan, Haifa Matar from Bahrain, Daniela Rauda from the United States, Yuri Ellinger from the Czech Republic, Marianne Borgen, who I believe is the mayor of Oslo. Welcome, good luck. Hopefully, coming from Norway gives you these incredible chess genes, and that will help you today. Abdulrahman Zaza from Lebanon, and Angela Ponce from the Philippines, and Oliver Roeder from the United States. So that's everyone. And so now it is my pleasure, my honor, to introduce someone that I've had a little bit of history with before. We once played a little team match where I helped him against Gary Kasparov for an exhibition, a little bit different from this one, that I have fond memories of, and I hope he does as well. Maybe the best chess player ever, Magnus Carlsen from Norway. So I think to get started, and if we're not ready to get started, somebody stop me, but otherwise I'm going to get this show on the road. What we're going to do is, Magnus is going to walk by everyone's board. We're going to start the clock, and then Magnus will make his first move, and then I believe you can play whenever you want. That's your understanding as well?
Yeah. After I make my first move, all bets are off. So.
All right. So we're going to give him the chance, though, to start every game one at a time, and we'll start the clock as he gets by the board. Good luck, everyone. I'm going to say good luck to Magnus as well. So now to be clear, Magnus has 30 minutes. You have 30 minutes. There is no time added when you make a move. In some cases, in chess tournaments, sometimes time gets added. Not here. You'll notice if you look at the boards that Magnus is making different moves almost on every board. This is to make sure that nobody can copy his neighbor. So don't try to copy your neighbor. It's probably not going to be a good strategy. And at the beginning of a game, it's going to be hard to surprise Magnus. One of the things that chess players learn as they go through years of training and practice is to recognize patterns, and so these patterns become almost second nature to grandmasters, and therefore it's hard to really surprise Magnus at the beginning. And if you do, it might not be a good thing. The first part of the game is called the opening, and all of these openings have names that usually stem from chess history, whether it was a tournament that was played, a particular player who played them, or something else. So in most exhibitions, Magnus would go back to the first board, but because this is a clock exhibition, it's going to be a little bit more of a free-for-all, so he's just going to be running around. I actually wonder if he was wearing a Fitbit or some kind of tracking device, it'd be interesting to see how many steps he's going to take. So far, no one seems to be in trouble. And you may be aware that Magnus is going to play a championship match for the World Championship this year, where he will try to defend his title against American Fabiano Caruana. So at the beginning, Magnus is trying to play very fast, and so are his opponents. So he's just trying to kind of keep up with the clock situation. For those who are not familiar with chess, when you have a clock, you cannot run out of time. So if you end up with 0 on your clock, that's a loss. And so for that reason, once you get very low on time, if you have just a few minutes, you have to start moving almost instantly. And obviously, Magnus doesn't want that to happen, and so he's going to keep playing very fast. And one of the things that's difficult in these exhibitions is that he's playing so fast that it's easy to be intimidated and kind of want to play fast back. Keep in mind, you have some time, and he's got to walk all this way, so don't panic. So far what I said earlier was not wrong. The the younger players seem to be giving Magnus a pretty tough challenge. I guess I'll say a few words about chess in general. You know, like Kate Murphy, the CEO of Play Magnus, was saying before, I grew up in Canada, not a country particularly known for its chess, kind of like Norway until Magnus, and obviously things have changed there. I did not quite reach that level in Canada, but chess helped me from my youngest days. I started playing when I was 5. You know, I played in all the tournaments that a kid can play, you know, back in Canada. Then I started playing internationally when I was maybe 11. But even to this day, where now I've been working, I work in finance at a hedge fund in the New York area. I've been here for about 12 years. Chess has been a tremendous benefit for me, both sort of in terms of the way people perceive us chess players, but also in actual fact. I think that, you know, the pattern recognition, the hard work that it takes to get to a high level, the ability to calculate, the ability to think critically, the confidence, you know, all of these things are extremely beneficial. And so it's great to see chess getting to places like here and hopefully increasing the exposure that kids get to chess. Magnus, are you nervous?
Yeah, a bit.
So,
I'm worried about the time.
yeah, so he's worried about the time. See, I thought that could be one of his concerns, but for someone who's nervous, he's walking somewhat confidently. Yeah, he just said, maybe people didn't hear, but he said it's one of his skills. So he's in chess, just like in maybe more famously in games like poker, you don't necessarily want your opponents to know exactly how you're feeling at that point in time. So he's doing a good job of hiding his fear. We have a few boards here where Magnus seems to have developed an advantage. You know, there are different types of advantages in chess. The simplest way when people look at a chess game might be to look at the number of pieces, and that's certainly a good indicator of who's doing better. But then there are concepts like a position, where, for example, space can play a factor. And in this game where Magnus is standing here, he's got sort of a impressive pawn structure that goes deep into the black camp. And then there's other factors like king safety. So here we have a game where the king has started, and I apologize for speaking about your game, but the king has been taking a little bit of a walk, which is usually not the best sign. Now this ability that Magnus has to make moves extremely quickly and seemingly without thinking is something that, first of all, he maybe has like no one else in the world, but also is developed through years of seeing these patterns. And you know, there's studies that have been made about chess. For example, if you show someone like Magnus a sensible chess position for even a fraction of a second, he'll be able to tell you exactly what you showed him with no, you know, he's going to recall that position extremely easily. Now, you know, studies have shown that if you show Magnus a completely random computer-generated chess position with a random assortment of pieces, you know, black and white in completely random places, it's not clear that he would be able to do much better than the common man. And the reason for that is that these patterns that Magnus sees through all of his training are patterns that are common to chess. And if you sort of remove the chess aspect and just make it a random thing, you may lose that ability. And so that shows sort of a difference between just raw memory and the ability to remember patterns. the game here where Magnus is against Yuri Ellinger from the Czech Republic, we have a pretty interesting position that I think I've seen before, and the fact of that means that we probably have quite a strong chess player here playing black, because he's been able to reach a point after many moves that are well known. So it's I wasn't given a list of chess ratings. You know, chess players are ranked in a very standard manner in a system that's very objective, and that typically makes it difficult it's very difficult for someone with a much lower rating to beat someone with a much higher rating, unlike in maybe some other games or sports, like, for example, in bridge, where you have a ranking system where everyone just gains points when they play. And so if you played for 50 years, you would probably have a pretty high rating. In chess, the ranking system is very objective and can be compared, you know, across all ages and classes, and so and it is a number. So Magnus has the highest rating in the world, although I'm not sure what it is right now exactly, but somewhere around 2,800. So I'm going to try to keep an eye on the clocks here and see how Magnus is doing on time. He's doing okay. There are a few boards where he's a little bit lower than his opponents, but overall, he is playing very quickly. Oh yeah, so this move is called en passant. So it happens when if you But en passant is maybe both the most famous and least well-known chess move, in the sense that people have often heard the term, but they might not know what it is in chess. But it happens. And we have the first victim here of Magnus, which is more of an honor than an embarrassment, if you ask me. And so congratulations. Now, one of the problems as fewer players are playing against Magnus as games end is that he's going to be able to run much quicker between boards. So just, you know, try to, for the benefit of everybody else, try to make it last. It's actually, I'm getting tired just following Magnus here, but, and I'm going the short way. He's got to go through the entire perimeter. I'm just hanging around the middle. Things are looking difficult for the mayor of Oslo here. Um, but she might have not wanted to take it too hard on her countrymen. That's. So, so Magnus has claimed his second victim. He wasn't particularly nice to his colleague from Norway, but maybe that's something. That's something to say about his character. He will not be nice to you under any circumstance. So. Magnus claims that you're still playing, right? Resign? Yeah, so we have another game that ended here. I have to say, I'm watching these games and Magnus is playing quite well. This is going to be a tough challenge for everyone. So there's no, everyone should be very proud of themselves for just hanging out with him for a little while. And the kids seem to be giving him a decent fight, so that's good. I'm not sure if we have, I don't know if the camera zooms in on some of these boards, but on this board here, where Jed is playing against Magnus, we have an interesting position where, the material is even. Maybe Magnus has a little bit of an edge because he has more space, and because of that, it might be easier for him to come up with a plan than for Black. But so far, very solidly played by Jed. He's not making it easy for Magnus at all. So what's happened here is it seems like Magnus is still playing very fast, which he's probably going to continue to do until almost the end, as his time runs a little bit lower. But his opponents are starting to take more time, which allows him to actually relax a little bit. By relaxing, I still mean constantly taking steps, but. It's definitely the first time I'm in the United Nations for something related to chess, but it almost looks like this room was built for this event, which I'm not 100% sure if it was or not. I have a feeling they may have hosted other events here, but it is a beautiful room for chess because that circle form is perfect for a simul exhibition. Normally these things will be set up with sort of a U-shaped number of tables. And but the circle is actually more efficient. That might be to Magnus's advantage. I haven't done the math, but I think it is, which maybe is not fortunate in that case. But so at this point, I think Magnus probably feels relatively happy about his positions, but he's still got the clock to worry about, and he's got to try to make it to every board before he runs out of time. So it becomes a little bit of a race against the clock for him. And some positions are still very tense. Magnus claims a fourth victim, I think, which means we have 11 opponents standing. Needing help. So a couple of people here have said that they need help. I don't think I'm really here to help people, but in this situation, we all need help, other than Magnus. I'm just trying to keep talking so that Magnus loses his focus. Magnus, is it working?
Yeah, to an extent, but
Not enough. Not enough. I don't know if that's an insult to my talking or to your playing. Magnus let himself here in the game against Oliver Roeder from the U.S. Get into a check that looks dangerous, but he must have assessed that it was reasonably safe for his king. He does have and he is up a piece. What we refer to as a piece is generally a knight or a bishop. If it's a rook, it's kind of more than a piece. If it's a pawn, it's less than a piece. Now on some boards, for example, on Eli's board here, Magnus only has 12 minutes and 50 seconds to Eli's 21 minutes. So Eli has been speeding it up. He's just got to make sure that his position holds. here Magnus was able to play what we call a fork. Usually it's when a knight attacks two different pieces at the same time. We have Magnus here played quite an elegant checkmate with his pawn. Of course, the number one thing in chess is probably the safety of the king. But it's always easier holding the microphone than actually playing. I mean, I was actually speaking to a good friend of mine, another Grandmaster, on my way here today, who's also decided to focus more on trading stocks than on playing chess for a living. And he was saying that chess is just absolutely amazing as long as you don't have to play. And so, because, of course, I mean, playing, and I've played chess my entire life, and I absolutely love it. But can also be difficult when you're not doing as well. I don't know if they told you that before you signed up today. Sometimes people ask, how does one become a grandmaster? How does one improve in chess? And the truth is that chess is such a combination of different things, right? So it's a part combinations, which is more sort of a calculating mathematical aspect of it. But then there's also more strategic aspects, which involve recognizing patterns. And one goes through books. We all have libraries of chess books that we've gone through, and now we also have databases, chess programs that allow us to look at the games of our predecessors and learn from them. But I really think the way to boil it down is through pattern recognition, and this can take many shapes and forms. But it's great to see more and more kids involved with chess, because I think it genuinely helps them in every aspect of their lives. Magnus has claimed one more victim. I think that means there are 5 games over, 10 games left. The problem with that for the people left playing is that he's going to get to your board quicker, leaving you with less time to come up with your moves. So I'll say this again: if you're in a little bit of trouble, take your time. That will help your neighbors. So Magnus is down to under 10 minutes on this board here against Eli. However, his position has improved, so he might still feel confident. But I'm going to try to keep talking until something good happens. And in this game against Jed here, he has played very solidly, and there's still even material in a closed position. And so realistically, he's up a pawn. He is up a pawn. I have to, I'm getting older. I don't necessarily know how to count anymore. I try my best, but So Magnus here was able to play what we call a back rank checkmate. Maybe his opponent decided to demonstrate that. But that occurs when the king has no escape, and so sometimes they use a German word Luft, which means air. That in order to avoid this, you can give your king some space by moving a pawn in front of it. So, in this case, though, Magnus was up a rook, and so ultimately it might not have changed the outcome of the game. So there are fewer games now. I think we're down to 8. Magnus, is there anything I can do to help? Magnus said some of the games are still kind of tough. I have a feeling that might be the best words you hear today. So this is a rare situation here in the game against Oliver Roeder. Magnus just played a double check, so he's checking the king with both his rook and the bishop. It doesn't happen too often, so it's not necessarily a good sign. Another thing which is not necessarily a good sign is that I see a lot of Magnus's opponents are moving their kings around, which typically means that they're in some trouble, because the king, as much as one wants to protect it, generally one doesn't want to move it too much. So here we have players blitzing moves out. A series of checks that Magnus has given. His opponent was running out of time, but so here we have the first opponent, Mr. Zaza, who did not actually lose by being checkmated. He ran out of time, and so we get to see that his position was still difficult, but he gave him a good fight. I'm starting to fear that all my distraction is not going to necessarily reap dividends. So Magnus is down to almost just 5 minutes on one board. I'm not going to tell him which one. But somehow he ran one way, so. I think as the games go on, it's even more impressive how dizzying it becomes. He's running around, still moving almost instantly on every board. So Eli Monderano has lost here. But he had Magnus down to less than 5 minutes, which is quite an achievement in itself. I'm not sure how much I like the getting towards the end of this event, because I have to walk longer distances. He's moving from one side to the other really quickly, and I wasn't really aware. I didn't really think of that when I woke up this morning. The game here against Jed Sloan has been an interesting game where Magnus has had more space, so meaning that his pawns have been a little bit deeper into Black's camp. And so gradually he's been able to build a little bit of an advantage because of that. But Jed has given him a good fight. And in the game here against Mr. Skorikov of Russia, Magnus has sort of gradually built an advantage. The game was probably about even for a while, but now Magnus is up what we call an exchange, which is a rook against a minor piece. The rook is a more powerful piece than either a knight or a bishop. So I think now Magnus feels like he's in control, and that's why he's opening a bottle of water. That really is. But it is important for chess players to hydrate. Magnus, do you drink water during your games usually? I'm going to try to keep going.
Yeah, usually.
Coffee?
No, I don't like coffee.
You might not have known you would find out facts like that one. Magnus does not like coffee. In the game here against Kevin Chand, it was interesting. Magnus let himself get checked a number of times. There's actually, chess players sometimes like to play derivative variants of chess, and one of them is a game where the first to make three or four checks wins. And in that case, I think Kevin would have won because he's made a lot of checks. However, that's not what we're playing, so it still seems like Magnus has the upper hand in this game, because his king is managing to escape the check. So I think Kevin has given him 1, 2, 3, 4 checks in a row. But now his own king might be in some trouble. So Magnus here, kind of instructive. He was happy to give the exchange, so he had a rook against a knight. He was happy to surrender that to turn the game into what we call a pawn endgame, an endgame where there are only pawns, no pieces. And generally, it's known that if you have more pawns, you're likely to win. And so he has calculated that. We call that sort of transforming an advantage. So we have, I think, 1, 2, 3. I think we have 3 games left. So far, Magnus has not suffered any losses or draws. And one more. So this is not looking too good, but it's looking great for Magnus. So this is when I think it's fair. This is where I think it's fair to ask for audience support. Just, you know, everybody give up. We're gonna have. We have just one game here. Hey, don't get nervous. So everybody look at Jed. No, I mean, he is the last man standing. He didn't start as the biggest or the tallest. But his position has been difficult. Usually you have to hope for stalemate. And if you lose, you can blame it on me. Magnus is not giving his opponent any counterplay. He turns his pawn into a queen. And you finally got him in a deep think, so that's good. So I was going to ask everyone to give Magnus and everyone who played against Magnus a big round of applause, but I think we've already done that. Let's do it again. Magnus, do you feel like you were in some trouble today?
Yeah, there was one very tough game actually right here against Mr. G.V. Ellinger, who had a very good position. He just blundered a rook, so I was almost apologetic after the game because I thought
it ended too fast.
It ended abruptly, and it could have been very interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to figure out. I thought I should have excellent compensation, but I'm still a bit.
It was similar to something I've seen before, but I wasn't sure if it was exactly there.
Yeah, it's exactly what I've seen before, and it's not supposed to be good for black. So
yeah, that's what I thought.
I spent half the rest of the simul thinking about how I could have done better in that game, but I still can't.
That's why it's easier to play 1 than 15 games.
Yeah,
exactly. Less distraction.
But apart from that, of course, Jed was holding out well.
Yeah, very solid.
He was
very solid, but not the hardest position for you to play.
No, I mean the game drags on, but it's kind of automatic for me. I just have to build up on the queen side, and as long as he doesn't have counterplay, it's not gonna be too hard. But still a very good fight, of course.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everyone. I'm going to give the mic here to
So thanks everybody for being here, and also a big thanks to our great commentator Pascal. Please give him a really big hand. Thank you so much. So we hope, on behalf of Play Magnus, we hope you have enjoyed this event, and thank you so much for hosting us here at United Nations.